send me B-roll. Nah, we're here. Whatever. Guess where we are? We're in Stockholm.
Yeah. Beautiful spring day.
Spring, Crispin. It is. There is snow. Crispin lied.
Look at the sun. The sun is in the sky, and we're in northern Europe. So
Yeah.
there can't be winter.
Yeah. Welcome to Baltic World. I'm Charlene.
I'm Crispin.
And welcome to the Baltic. Literally.
We are finally on our overseas excursion to get out of Australia and do the fact-finding, get all the B-roll, the footage, the stills, meet people in the Baltic region. We have been unable to leave Australia since before COVID. So we are finally liberated, but it's a whole world of firsts.
I know, this is my first time ever in Europe. It sounds terrible, but I've been part of Baltic World for how long? And
Since the beginning.
Exactly, and enjoying Europe from distance, being like, oh, like, it looks pretty, but I have no idea. And then as we landed, I'm like, I love everything.
So where are we right now? We're not quite in the Baltic trip. We were getting there. This is our first kind of stopover, get over jet lag. Where are we right now?
So we're currently in Stockholm, Sweden.
Mm-hmm.
Landed last night.
Yeah.
Yesterday afternoon. Yeah.
Yeah, we're only here for a day and a half. So first thing, ridiculously early in the morning, we will be flying to Estonia. So we'll get this up tonight. By the time the next day rolls around, we will be in Estonia on our proper Baltic adventure. And yeah, Charlene, as she says, has not seen anything in Europe. So we arrived and we went for dinner last night. Where did we go?
We went to a Viking restaurant. So it was so interesting. Like, everybody was like really into the Viking culture and like they welcomed everybody.
Yes, they announced people as they arrived from where they were from, and so they could go raiding.
Yeah.
And we had, what did we drink?
Mead. Oh, but chili mead. It was lovely.
We had a fair bit of it. It was pretty good.
He had 2 glasses. I was like, are you sure? I was pacing myself, but I was getting really drunk.
Yeah, they talked me out of buying a bottle. I was like, oh, I'll just have a bottle. They're like, oh, it's pretty alcoholic. And I'm like, I wasn't registering why this was a problem, but no, I regret not buying a bottle. We'll get some on the way out of this country. And we had a big feast. They brought out like a whole thing of meat on like metal spikes, and we had the sort of the bull-shaped horn sort of forks and things to eat with. And we were put at a long table with some people. We were sitting next to some Danes, and they had never been to Stockholm. The people next to, they just took a train from Copenhagen to Stockholm, and it's like 5.5 hours apparently. That actually would be a nice train ride to go across the various islands. Yeah. But they had never been to Stockholm. I've been to Stockholm like 5 times, and I'm from Australia. Yeah. So it was quite. It always amazes me. Australians are particular big travelers. We haven't been for the last couple of years, been incredibly insular, but because of the distances involved, when Australians do go overseas, we usually spend a bit of time moving around. So I think there are a lot of Australians who have been to most European countries because once you get to Europe, you really have to make the most of it.
Yeah, it is a long trip, right? Oh, and it was so interesting. I put some footage in, like the flight path. It's just like,
yeah. Whee! That's one thing so for the next month, we will be focusing on all the positives, things that we enjoy and see and do. Everything that we are experiencing is new for Charlene. Like, so we're in the cobblestone streets with the old buildings. The place we had the dinner in was a building maybe 400 years old in this old sort of medieval cellar. Candles and old sort of Slavic bards and so on. So it was very unusual for Charlene, and to see this whole European experience through the eyes of someone who had never seen it before is really exciting for me. But you'll get to join that journey as we go. That being said, I am mindful that the conflict in Ukraine is still going on, and I know that this like whole positivity and excitement for us is going to be juxtaposed from the kind of content we've been creating for a while, where we've been updating people on the conflict. If something big happens in Ukraine, of course, we'll update people. But I'm just mindful that we're excited and we're very positive that we've got to finally get out of the country and to go around the whole Baltic region. But as the flight path indicated, where we go right around Ukrainian airspace, that thing is still happening. It's happening much closer now. So, yeah, just I'm mindful of that. If people think that I'm not thinking about Ukraine over the next month, that is not true at all. We are thinking about it a lot. And we'll finally see some Ukrainian sort of refugees as we go through the Baltic region. So yeah, it'll be brought home to us, no doubt.
Yeah, and I guess like walking down the streets as well. Like I definitely see like a lot like I support Ukraine and like all the different signage, which was really nice to see.
Well, I think the Swedes are just really happy that their own colour scheme is now the most popular colour scheme in the world. So of course the Swedish flag is also yellow and blue, and yellow and blue is their kind of thing. So they are very, I think, they have a kinship with Ukraine, given that it's the same thing, and now those colours are everywhere. Yeah, and it's not out of the ordinary for Sweden, of course.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So, what's the thing that you've enjoyed most so far?
I just love how everything's walkable. So in Australia, like you need a car, like to get anywhere really. Like things are very far apart. It was a city built for cars, right? But as you all pointed out earlier, like. There's small alleyways. Everything's incredibly walkable. The cobblestones, but they're actually like okay to walk on. Like when Australia does cobblestones, they're like terrible. Like, they hurt your feet real bad. So yeah, I just love like everything is like super small, and like the buildings like look like a masterpiece of art. I'm like everywhere I look, like it's so beautiful. Like, I just want like Kristen was like, we got to go. I'm like, really? Why do we have to go? Like there's so many things to take photos of. Yeah,
I knew that would be the case as well. Like people in Europe don't always appreciate how beautiful everything in the country, everything in the continent is.
And there's so much history and story behind it. Like, oh my goodness. And then like, and then the problems, like there's so much innovation that actually happens, right? These old buildings, and then they're trying to modernize it, and they kind of mix it old and new. Like even in this current apartment we're in, like there's this wall that's just all like mismatched, and yet it's like so aesthetic.
We are about to go to the Vasa Museum. So as I said, we've only got a day here, so we're doing the whirlwind thing for Stockholm, and Charlene of course has not seen the Vasa, so we will it'll be a very interesting experience then as well, and not something you can get in Australia. You know, anything that's like 80 years old in Australia is sort of heritage, whereas in Europe it's a completely different environment. But it was a much colder than I think Charlene was prepared for. We arrived in Stockholm and it was snowing, which I love, but
I know. I was like, Kristen, what's going on? And it's like, this is spring. And then like suddenly all this snow comes. But everyone, I think, is built differently here because they're all like, yeah, whatever. Like on their journey, whatever. No one has like umbrellas and stuff. They're just kind of like with the weather.
Yeah, well, one thing I am excited about is I know that as we go through the Baltic, as we move further into April, and as we go south, that spring is just going to explode. Everything will become green, and you'll see everything. It'll be very lush. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it starting to open up in that way, and looking forward to the rest of the trip. Oh my goodness, we're finally here.
What are you most excited about for this trip?
I first of all, it's everything feels new again for me for two reasons. One, I haven't been out of the country since pre-COVID, and COVID really got me down. Not the disease, but the fact that we were so restricted. And two, I get to see Europe through the eyes of somebody who hasn't been here before, and so everything is really like wondrous. I am personally looking forward to getting so much more footage. So we've brought the drone, flying the drone around the Baltic, through Estonia and Latvia, Lithuania will be great. Meeting up with some of you will be fantastic. We'll organize things with those that will support us on Patreon. So we fly to Estonia tomorrow, and then that's when the proper trip begins. So we had a wonderful sleep last night. My goodness, it was needed. So yeah, we're really looking forward to all kicking off, and the food. So Charlene has been introduced, obviously, to the Swedish dinner we had last night.
Lots of meat. Oh my gosh!
And this morning we had like this Swedish pastry, which is so good. And so I'm looking forward to the traditional sort of Lithuanian meals and Latvian meals, the zippolines and so on, and the soup. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like I'm really looking forward to the same things. The food, like you said, like baked good is just different here compared to anywhere. Well, compared to Australia, that's all I really have contrast with.
I'm looking forward to doing shopping because I don't have enough, Lithuanian amber and things like that. I really want. Oh, one tragedy occurred. So my watch that some of you have commented on, I left it on the plane. I will try. Like, it's a good airline we were with. I'm sure they'll pick it up. It'll be fine. But it means I won't have it on the trip. It does give me an excuse to buy another one. So maybe when I'm in the Baltic, we'll be able to do that. And the forests and the castles and getting out of the major cities. And also scouting for the future of Baltic World, because we have so many big plans for Baltic World as an enterprise. And some of those big investments will be upcoming. One of those investments has already been made by Charlene. What you are seeing us on right now is not the normal camera. So if the image is better, part of it is the lighting. The lighting is amazing. Everything, like, there's so many lights in this room. Yeah, so we're staying at this like Airbnb, and there's this there's
like 15 or so lights.
Yeah, it's like a checkerboard of ceiling lights. So I've never seen lighting this good in Australia ever. It's very impressive. So part of it's that, but also you've got a new camera. What's the?
Yes, I bought the Fujifilm XS10, so that's what we're looking at right now. And I wanted to I wanted to make like get a lot of B-roll unique for the channel, and showcase the Baltic. Rightfully so. So we've got that, and we're scouting some potential real estate. We'll see. There's been loads of delays, but I'm so glad that we made it here. Like, you have no idea how many barriers and how many hoops we had to jump through. Like, everything that could go wrong went wrong, and then suddenly everything that needed to go right went right.
Yeah, like in that last week before the trip, everything fell into place in a way that could not have been anticipated. And I never revealed it, but I was quite anxious about the fact that there were still things that hadn't been resolved that we need to get resolved. And previously we had all these delays and so on. We had to cancel a trip across the country to another part of the country in Australia because of the internal travel restrictions. And I think since then we were kind of demoralized because if you can't even travel in your own country.
Like how are you meant to go halfway around the world?
Yeah. Now that it's starting to ease up now, but the difference in practice is marked. So we get off the plane in Stockholm, and of course you have to wear the mask on the plane.
Yeah.
For those that saw our community page, you'll see everyone on the plane wearing them.
Yeah.
We get off the plane, and all the local Swedes, not the foreigners who were finding their way, but all the local Swedes immediately rip it off, right? And we arrive in the airport terminal once we get through immigration, and nobody,
not a soul was wearing a mask, which is insane. Like, even on the plane, I think even the local Swedes were having a trouble like wearing the mask, like having that habit, because obviously it's a cultural thing here. Like, people are kind of over it. Right. Whereas in Australia, everybody wears a mask. Like, it's like, you put on your clothes and you put on a mask. Like, that's it.
And I worry, I actually felt myself getting a little angry and upset, not at the locals, but at Australia, because I feel people have become pretty brainwashed. Like, I know people who won't leave the house in Australia, even though, mortality and so on is incredibly low.
Yeah.
Oh, and I am unlikely to catch the disease while I'm here from the
me.
person sitting there.
That was the one thing, right? One of the hoops I jumped through was like 2 weeks prior to flying out, I got COVID. Oh my gosh. I've been so anxious, like, all these past months, like, don't catch COVID. And then, when you get sick and you're like, it's not COVID. I was like, I better test. And then it was. And I was like, far out.
Yeah, so Poor Charlene was sick for a few days.
Just the first 2, and then I felt okay after that.
That's really good. And Sweden had I'll tell you some of the story. So Sweden had a restriction that people from non-EU countries who weren't Swedish citizens weren't allowed to come to Sweden unless they met certain criteria.
And one of them is a PCR test.
Yeah. So, and that rule expired 31st of March. We get to the airport and the airline hadn't updated their system. So they're like, have you had your PCR test and so on? We're trying to explain to them, no. Like, it's cancelled as of the 1st of April, which was the time that we were landing here. And they went and did all their checks and things and updated their systems. It was fine. But like, you could just see like everything had to fall into place.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I was checking. I'm like, do they have the right information? Like, am I getting on this plane or not?
But thank you very much, guys, for all the support that you've given us to this point. And I'm,
honestly, we, like, without you guys, we wouldn't even be here, I think, like, to have your support and your, enthusiasm for the channel has really helped us, like, pursue this goal, this dream of ours to bring, Baltic World to this.
Yeah, and that's actually the goal of the channel, is to promote what I think and hopefully what Charlene will come to learn, what I think is the most underrated countries in the world. Now, the Baltic countries have been in the news more in the past months than they ever have. Lithuania's had its fight with China. You had the Belarusian border crisis. Now, of course, you've got Ukraine and the leadership role that Poland and Lithuania and countries like that are taking. And now the opportunity to talk about the Baltic history. And I think, and I really want to focus, more on Estonia and Latvia, which I think is a poor forgotten child as well. And so the goal of Baltic World is to make people around the world treat these countries the way they treat, France, Italy, and so forth. That it's a household name and people understand some things about the country. And also to encourage people from the region who have moved elsewhere to maintain that connection with their homeland, because that's very strong. One of the things that's been striking about this is how many people, and probably a majority, who are from the region but live elsewhere in the world, whether it's the United States or other continents, and reach out and say, look, it's so good to have this English-speaking connection with my ancestry, my homeland. And a lot of people have come to the Baltic before us who have said, your videos have encouraged me to take that holiday back to the country. Or children of immigrants who say, my parents came over from Latvia, I've never been back, etc. I didn't really know whether it was something I wanted to do, but having followed your channel, I've gone back and I've had a really great time and I met extended relatives and so on. And that is just so heartwarming for us. So hopefully we will have way more footage. Yeah. Charlene has gone crazy with the camera already. I am having to do a lot of walking and so on because Charlene's like, photo of this, photo of this, photo of this. Yeah. But that's great. So in the future, when we're in the Baltic, we will be able to have footage that's our footage. Don't have to fight the copyright restrictions or anything like that. And our future videos will be back to normal. The other thing is the studio, you would have seen my sort of carpeted sort of background.
He's literally in the shed.
It wasn't ideal. It was temporary before I went on this trip. We will be setting up the new studio pretty much straight away. And the microphone and all the things will be back to its normal sound quality. At the moment, of course, we're using our travel compromises in that regard. But yeah, for the next month, for a full month, we are traveling through that region, and I cannot tell you how relieved and excited we are. And Charlene, you want to sound us off?
Yeah, I'm super excited. Like, I can't believe I'm halfway around the world, never been in Europe, and I hope by like the end of this month I'll fully get the full experience. And you know what's unique is that because I've never been to Europe, my first experience to Europe is Eastern Europe. Like, for many Australians, it's Western Europe, right? So yeah, I'll be able to share the excitement and enthusiasm from the lens of someone who's never been. And yeah, learn about the culture, meet lots of people. That's what I'm looking forward to the most, is meeting some of our subscribers. And yeah, just learning. I'm so excited. I'm going to go to Master Museum now. Okay, Crispin. All
right, let's go. All right. Thanks very much.
Stay safe and
ciao for now.